I never thought cleaning toilets for a living would lead me to the most powerful boardroom in Los Angeles. But here's the thing about life. It doesn't care about your plans. My name is Mariam Thompson. I'm 26 years old, and until 6 months ago, I was invisible. Not literally, but you know what I mean. When you're a housekeeper in a billionaire's mansion, people look right through you. You're part of the furniture, part of the marble floors you're scrubbing on your hands and knees. But this story is about the night everything changed. The night I got stood up at the most expensive restaurant in Beverly Hills with exactly $11 in my purse. And the night a man worth $4.7 billion sat down across from me and said 5 words that would destroy his empire. May I join you? What happened next cost him his CEO position, turned me into the most hated woman in America, and proved that some love stories don't follow the rules. They break them. So buckle up, because this is going to be a long ride. And trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail. Let me take you back to where it all started. 6 months before that restaurant. Before the headlines. Before my face was plastered across every gossip site with captions like, "Gold Digger Ruins Billionaire's Life." I was working at the Whitfield estate in Bel Air. And when I say estate, I'm not talking about some nice house with a pool. I'm talking about 47,000 square feet of marble, crystal, and money. 12 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms. An indoor pool, outdoor pool, tennis courts, and a garage that housed $8 million worth of cars. My job? Make it spotless. Every single day. I'd wake up at 5:30 a.m. in my studio apartment in Inglewood, a place so small you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms out. I'd take 2 buses and a train, arriving at the estate by 7 a.m. sharp. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, ran that place like a military operation. Late once, you got a warning. Late twice, you were gone. There were 5 of us on the housekeeping staff. Maria, who'd been there 14 years. Consuela, 9 years. Janet, 6 years. Me, 2 years. And rotating temps who never lasted more than a month because they couldn't handle Mrs. Chen's standards. We had rules. So many rules. Rule #1. Never speak to Mr. Whitfield unless spoken to first. Rule #2. If Mr. Whitfield enters a room you're cleaning, you leave immediately. Rule #3. You are invisible. Act like it. For 2 years, I followed those rules perfectly. I'd see James Whitfield maybe twice a week, always in passing. He'd be on his phone, talking about mergers and acquisitions and quarterly reports. I'd press myself against the wall, eyes down, waiting for him to pass. He never looked at me. Not once. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Because here's what nobody tells you about working for the ultra-rich. The invisibility is a protection. The moment they see you, the moment you become a real person to them, everything gets complicated. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My life back then was simple. Wake up, work, go home, repeat. I lived paycheck to paycheck, $2,400 a month, which sounds okay until you remember this is Los Angeles. After rent, $1,350 for that shoebox, utilities, food, and those bus passes. I had maybe $200 left over. I was saving for something, though. Had been for 3 years. A bakery. I know it sounds like a cliché. Poor girl dreams of opening a bakery. But baking was the only thing that made sense to me. My grandmother taught me when I was 7 years old in her tiny kitchen in Atlanta. She'd let me stand on a stool and measure flour, teaching me that baking wasn't just about following recipes, it was about love, about creating something that made people feel home. She died when I was 19. Left me her recipe book and $3,000. I turned that $3,000 into $11,400 over 7 years. At this rate, I'd have enough for a down payment on a small commercial space by the time I was 47. Yeah, that's the math when you're poor. Your dreams have to wait decades. But I didn't mind. Not really. I had my routine. I had my goal. I had my grandmother's recipe book, which I'd read every night like some people read the Bible. And then I met Derek. Derek Martinez. 29 years old. Assistant manager at a tech startup in Santa Monica. We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. One of those meet cutes that feels like it's straight out of a movie. I was ordering my usual small black coffee because it was $2.50 and I couldn't justify more. And he was behind me in line. When I reached for my wallet, he said, "Let me get that." I turned around, ready to politely decline, and okay, he was handsome. Really handsome. Warm brown eyes, perfect smile, dressed in that casual but expensive way that tech guys do. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know," he replied, "but I'd like to. And maybe you'd like to tell me your name? Smooth, right?" We talked for 2 hours in that coffee shop. He told me about his job, his apartment in Culver City, his dream of starting his own company someday. I told him about my work. Left out the billionaire part, just said I was a housekeeper. My baking dreams, my grandmother. He listened. Actually listened. Asked questions. Laughed at my jokes. When we finally left, he asked for my number. I gave it to him, floating on air. We texted every day for 3 weeks. He was charming, attentive, funny. He'd send me good morning texts and ask about my day. We went on 2 casual dates, a walk on the beach, coffee again, and he was a perfect gentleman. Then, on a Thursday afternoon while I was scrubbing the Whitfield Estate's guest bathroom, my phone buzzed. "Derek, I want to take you somewhere special. Saturday night. Dress nice. I'll pick you up at 7. My heart literally skipped. This was it. A real date. The kind of date I'd seen in movies but never experienced myself. I texted back, "I'd love that." Then I panicked. Dress nice when you're a housekeeper making $2,400 a month means something very different than dress nice for people with money. I had exactly 3 outfits that weren't work clothes or pajamas. None of them were special date material. I did something I never do. I spent money I shouldn't have. $87 at a discount store for a burgundy dress. Not designer, but nice enough. It fit well, made me feel pretty. Another $23 for shoes that would probably give me blisters but looked elegant. Saturday came. I spent 3 hours getting ready hair, makeup, the works. I looked in my cracked bathroom mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked beautiful. Like someone who belonged in the world Derek was taking me to. At 6:55 p.m., I was waiting outside my apartment building, clutching my small purse with my phone, keys, and $11 in cash, just in case. 7 nachmittags. No, Derek. 7:15 p.m. I texted, "Hey, I'm ready whenever you are." 7:30 p.m. I called, straight to voicemail. 7:45 p.m. I called again. Voicemail. At 8 p.m., I got a text. But not from Derek. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Lol. Is she still waiting? Then another text. This time with a screenshot of my "Hey, I'm ready" message, posted to someone's Instagram story with the caption, "When you catfish someone and they actually show up," my blood went cold. I opened Instagram with shaking hands and found Derek's profile, which I'd never looked at carefully before. I scrolled through his stories. There it was, posted 10 minutes ago. A video of him and 3 friends at a bar, laughing. One of them was filming, and Derek was talking. Bro, I swear, I told her Le Bernardine at 8. She's probably there right now in some cheap dress, thinking she's gonna have dinner with me. They all burst out laughing. The caption, "Social experiment. How long will she wait? Number, pranked." I want to tell you, I was angry. That I marched to that bar and confronted him. But I wasn't angry. I was humiliated. Because here's the thing. Deep down, a part of me had always known this was too good to be true. Guys like Derek didn't date girls like me. Not really. I was the punchline to a joke I didn't know I was part of. But then I saw the location tag on his story. Le Bernardine. The restaurant where he told me to meet him. And something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to go home and cry in my apartment while he and his friends laughed at the poor girl who believed someone could actually want her. I was going to that restaurant. Now, before I tell you what happened next at that restaurant, and trust me, you won't believe it, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been humiliated like this? Ever felt invisible in your own life? If this story is resonating with you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. We share real stories about real people here, and I promise you, this one is just getting started. Also, drop a comment below and tell me what you think about Derek's prank. Was it just cruel or straight up evil? And let me know what city you're watching from. I love seeing where our community is tuning in from around the world. All right, let's get back to that restaurant. Le Bernardine is the kind of place you see in magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than my annual salary. Each table had fresh orchids and candles that cast this warm, romantic glow. I walked in at 8:17 p.m. and immediately felt every eye in the place turn to me. Not because I looked good, because I looked wrong. My $87 dress might as well have had a price tag hanging off it. My discount shoes squeaked slightly on the marble floor. I was a housekeeper playing dress-up, and everyone could tell. The hostess, a tall, elegant woman with a French accent, looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked, her tone making it clear she knew the answer. I'm meeting someone," I stammered. "Derek Martinez?" She checked her tablet. "We have no reservation under that name." Of course they didn't. Because this was all part of the joke. "I see," I said quietly. Could I just sit at the bar for a moment?" She hesitated, clearly wanting to say no, but finally gestured toward the bar area. "The bar is first come, first served." I walked to the bar on shaking legs, feeling the weight of every stare. I could hear the whispers. Is she lost? Someone should tell her this isn't that kind of place. Probably came in off the street. I sat on a bar stool, my cheap shoes dangling because the stool was too high. The bartender, a young guy with slicked back hair, approached with a forced smile. "What can I get you?" I looked at the menu. The cheapest glass of wine was $28. "Just water, please," I whispered. He raised an eyebrow but poured me water in a crystal glass that probably cost more than my dress. I sat there, phone in my lap, watching Derek's Instagram story get more and more views, more and more laughing emoji reactions. And then I started crying. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just silent tears running down my face, ruining the makeup I'd spent an hour on. I was crying for the $110 I'd wasted on this outfit, for the 3 weeks I'd spent believing someone actually liked me, for the fact that at 26 years old, I was still so naive that I'd fallen for something this cruel. I was crying because I was tired, so tired of being invisible, of being poor, of having dreams that would take 20 years to achieve. I was crying because I was sitting in a restaurant I could never afford, surrounded by people who would never see me as anything but a joke. And that's when I heard a voice beside me. "Excuse me, are you all right?" I looked up, wiping my eyes, ready to tell whoever it was to leave me alone. And I froze, because standing next to me, looking genuinely concerned, was James Whitfield, my boss, the billionaire whose toilets I cleaned. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I could see the recognition dawn in his eyes, that moment where I went from crying stranger to, "Wait, I know you." "Mariam?" he said, and I was shocked he knew my name. "You work at my house." It wasn't a question. He knew me. Actually, knew who I was. "Mr. Whitfield," I managed, trying to wipe my face. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you'd be here. I started to get up, but he held up a hand. "Please, don't leave on my account." He glanced at the empty seat next to me. "Were you stood up?" The kindness in his voice broke something in me. I nodded, fresh tears spilling over. "I'm sorry," I said again. "This is so embarrassing. I should go." "Why?" he asked simply. "Because you're upset? Because I'm here? Or because you think you don't belong in this restaurant?" I stared at him. "All of the above?" He smiled. A real smile, not the polite CEO smile I'd seen in passing at the estate. "Well, for what it's worth, I think you belong here more than half the people in this room. And I'm here alone too, so would you mind if I joined you? I hate eating alone." I must have looked shocked, because he quickly added, "No pressure. If you'd rather be alone, I completely understand. But you look like you could use some company." And honestly, so could I. I should have said no, should have followed Rule Hasson. Never speak to Mr. Whitfield unless spoken to first. But I was tired of rules, tired of being invisible. "Okay," I whispered. He smiled again and signaled the bartender. "Could we get a table, please? And bring the lady whatever she'd like to drink." The bartender's entire demeanor changed. Suddenly, I wasn't the girl in the cheap dress, taking up bar space. I was a guest of James Whitfield. We were seated at a corner table, one of the best in the restaurant. The same hostess who'd looked at me with disdain was now fawning over us, pulling out my chair, handing me a menu with a smile. I opened the menu, and my stomach dropped. Appetizers started at $45. Entrees were $75 to $120. "Order anything you want," James said, noticing my expression. "Please. It's my treat, Mr. Whitfield." "I can't, James," he interrupted. Please, call me James. And yes, you can. Consider it. Of compensation for all the times I've walked past you in my house without saying hello. I'm realizing now how rude that must have seemed. That's your rule, I said without thinking. Mrs. Chen told us we're supposed to be invisible. He frowned. I didn't know that was a rule. That's terrible. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. He looked genuinely sorry. Not the performative sorry that rich people do. Actually sorry. The waiter came, and James ordered wine a bottle that I later learned cost $340. He ordered appetizers, entrees, told me to get dessert. And then he did something that changed everything. He asked me about myself. Not in the polite, going through the motions way. He actually wanted to know. So, he said, leaning forward slightly, tell me about the person who stood you up. Should I have him fired? I laughed despite myself. You don't even know who he is. I have resources. I could find out. He was joking, but there was an edge of seriousness there. Anyone who would stand up someone like you is an idiot. Someone like me? Someone kind. Someone who works hard. Someone who... He paused. Someone who's sitting here having dinner with her boss and somehow making it not weird. I laughed again. Oh, it's weird. This is definitely weird. Good weird or bad weird? I'm not sure yet. We talked through appetizers. He told me about his day, a board meeting that went badly, a merger that was falling apart, the pressure of running a company with 12,000 employees. Everyone thinks being a CEO is glamorous, he said, swirling his wine. But mostly it's just lonely. You're surrounded by people all day, but they're not really with you. They want something from you. Approval, money, decisions. No one just wants to talk. Is that why you're here alone? I asked. He nodded. I was supposed to have dinner with some investors. They canceled last minute. I almost went home. But the idea of eating alone in that big house, he trailed off. It's too quiet there. It's a beautiful house, I offered. It's a museum, he corrected. Everything's perfect, and nothing feels like home. I understood that more than he knew. Through the main course, I told him about Derek, about the Instagram story, the prank, the humiliation. He listened, his jaw tightening. That's not just cruel. That's sociopathic. You deserve so much better than that. I don't know, I said quietly. Maybe I was stupid to think. Don't, he interrupted firmly. Don't do that. Don't make his cruelty about your worth. You took a chance on someone. That's brave, not stupid. Something in his voice made me look up. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the restaurant disappeared. Why are you being so nice to me? I asked. He considered the question. Honestly, because for the first time in months, maybe years, I'm having a conversation with someone who sees me as a person, not a bank account or a business opportunity. You're not trying to impress me or get something from me. You're just here, being real. I clean your toilets, I said bluntly. I'm not exactly in a position to want something from you. He laughed a real, genuine laugh. See? That's what I mean. Everyone else would have pretended that wasn't true. You just said it. Dessert came a chocolate souffle that was so good I actually closed my eyes when I tasted it. You like that? James asked, amused. This is the best thing I've ever eaten, I said honestly. You should try baking it. I looked up, surprised. How did you know I bake? I didn't. But the way you're eating that, you have the appreciation of someone who understands food. Am I wrong? No, I admitted. I want to open a bakery someday. It's my dream. Tell me about it. And I did. I told him about my grandmother, about the recipe book, about the $11,400 I'd saved over 7 years, about how at this rate I'd be 47 before I could afford it. He listened to every word. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What if you didn't have to wait 20 years? What do you mean? What if I invested in your bakery? Gave you the capital to start now?" I stared at him. "Mr. Whitfield." James, I can't accept that. I'm not a charity case." "I'm not offering charity," he said seriously. "I'm offering an investment. You'd pay me back with interest if you want. But Mariam, life is too short to wait 20 years for your dreams. Trust me. I know." "What do you mean?" He looked away, something sad crossing his face. "I wanted to be a teacher. History. I loved it, the stories, the way the past shapes the present. But my father built this company, and when he died, I was 24 years old and suddenly responsible for 8,000 employees. I told myself I'd do it for a few years, then pursue teaching. That was 11 years ago. You could still do it," I said. "Could I?" He smiled sadly. "I'm 35 years old, Mariam. I've spent 11 years building an empire I never wanted. I'm worth $4.7 billion, and I can't remember the last time I was actually happy." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. "Then why don't you stop?" I asked. "Because 12,000 people depend on me. Because my mother would disown me. Because society says that walking away from billions to teach high school history is insane." He looked at me. "But sitting here with you, talking about dreams and soufflés, this is the most alive I've felt in years." The air between us shifted, charged. "I should go," I said quietly, even though I didn't want to. "I'll drive you home," he offered. "You don't have to. I want to." Okay, pause for a second. Can we just talk about how insane this is? A billionaire CEO offering to invest in my bakery? Driving me home? If you're thinking this sounds too good to be true, you're not alone. I thought the same thing. But here's where it gets even crazier. If you're hooked on this story and want to see how it all plays out, make sure you're subscribed because you do not want to miss what happens next. And I'm curious, do you think James was being genuine, or was this just another setup? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And while you're at it, tell me what city you're watching from. I love connecting with you all. Now, let me tell you about what happened next. James drove a Tesla, of course he did. But he drove it himself. No chauffeur. And he opened my door like a gentleman. The drive to Inglewood was quiet at first. Then he said, "Thank you for tonight." "I should be thanking you," I said. "You saved me from the worst night of my life." "No," he said softly. "You saved me from another lonely dinner where I pretend everything's fine. So thank you." When we pulled up to my building, a rundown complex with flickering lights and bars on the windows, I saw him take it in. Not with judgment, with understanding. "This is me," I said, suddenly embarrassed. "Mariam," he said as I reached for the door handle. Would you want to do this again? Not at a fancy restaurant. Just talk?" I should have said no. should have remembered the rules, the power imbalance, the impossibility of it all. But I said yes. Over the next 3 weeks, James and I met 7 times, always in secret, always in places where no one would recognize him. We met at a diner in Inglewood at 11 p.m., where he tried a cheeseburger for the first time in a decade and declared it better than anything at Le Bernardine. We met at a park in Ladera Heights at sunrise, where I brought homemade cinnamon rolls, and he told me they were the best thing he'd ever tasted. We met at a bookstore in Culver City, where he bought me a cookbook I'd been eyeing, and I bought him a history book about the Civil War. Every meeting, we talked for hours. About everything. About nothing. He told me about the pressure of board meetings, about his mother's expectations, about feeling trapped in a life he never chose. I told him about growing up poor, about my grandmother's death, about the exhaustion of working so hard and still barely surviving. We were from completely different worlds, but somehow we understood each other. On our 8th meeting, a late-night walk on a quiet beach in Malibu, he took my hand. "This is crazy," he said. "I know. If anyone finds out, I know. My mother will lose her mind. The board will think I've gone insane. The media will destroy you." "I know," I whispered. He stopped walking and turned to face me. "But I don't care, Mariam. I haven't felt this way about anyone in, maybe ever. You make me want to be brave, to choose the life I want instead of the life I'm supposed to have." "James, I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "And I think you might be falling for me too." He was right. I was. We kissed on that beach, and it felt like the world shifted on its axis. For 2 months, we existed in a bubble. A secret world where a billionaire CEO and a housekeeper could be together without the weight of reality crushing us. I still worked at his estate, still followed Mrs. Chen's rules, still scrubbed toilets and polished marble. But now, late at night, James would text me. We'd meet at my apartment. He'd park 3 blocks away and walk, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses like some kind of spy. We'd sit on my tiny couch and eat takeout and watch movies. He'd help me test recipes from my grandmother's book. I'd listen to him talk about his day, offering advice that he said was better than anything his $500 an hour consultants provided. "You should be on my board," he joked one night. "Your board would have a heart attack if they knew you were dating the help," I replied. He kissed my forehead. "You're not the help. You're the woman I love." It was perfect. Impossible, but perfect. And then his mother found out. And this is where everything falls apart. But before I tell you about the confrontation with James's mother, and trust me, it was brutal, I want to know something from you. Have you ever had to fight for a relationship that everyone said was wrong? Have you ever loved someone against all odds? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences inspire me. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button now because the next part of this story is going to blow your mind. And don't forget to tell me what city you're tuning in from. I love seeing our global community. All right, let me tell you about Victoria Whitfield. Victoria Whitfield was everything you'd imagine a billionaire's mother to be. Elegant, cold, and absolutely terrifying. She showed up at the estate on a Tuesday morning while I was cleaning the library. Mrs. Chen came running in, panicked. "Mariam, Mrs. Whitfield wants to see you." In the study. Now, my blood went cold. I walked to the study on shaking legs. Victoria was sitting in a leather chair, looking at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "Sit," she commanded. I sat. I'm going to make this very simple, she said. I know about you and my son. I know you've been meeting in secret. I know he's been to your apartment 17 times in the past 2 months. 17. She'd been having him followed. Mrs. Whitfield, I'm not interested in your excuses. She cut me off. I'm interested in a solution. You're going to end this relationship. Today, you're going to tell James it was a mistake, that you don't love him, that you were using him for money. And then you're going to disappear. I can't do that. Her eyes narrowed. You can, and you will. Because if you don't, I will destroy you. I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will tell every news outlet that you're a gold digger who seduced my son for his money. I will make your life a living hell. I love him, I said quietly. She laughed, actually laughed. Love? You're a housekeeper. He's a billionaire CEO. This isn't a fairy tale. This is real life. And in real life, people like you don't end up with people like him. Maybe they should, I said, finding my courage. Maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe it's a world that says love has to follow class lines. She stood up, furious. You have 24 hours. End it, or I will. She left, and I sat there, shaking. That night I told James everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'm not letting her do this. James, she's your mother. She controls the board. She can. I don't care, he said firmly. Mariam, I've spent 35 years doing what everyone else wants. Following the rules. Being the dutiful son. The responsible CEO. And I've been miserable. But with you, I'm happy. Actually happy. And I'm not giving that up. What are you saying? He took my hands. I'm saying I'm going to tell the truth. At the charity gala this Saturday, the one with 500 guests and every major media outlet in LA, I'm going to introduce you as the woman I love, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. James, that's insane. You'll lose everything. I'll lose everything that doesn't matter, he corrected, and I'll keep the one thing that does. You. The gala was at the Beverly Hilton. Black tie, $10,000 a plate, attended by everyone who was anyone in Los Angeles. James had a dress delivered to my apartment, a stunning emerald gown that fit perfectly. Shoes, jewelry, everything. When I walked into that ballroom on his arm, the room went silent. I could feel every eye on us. Could hear the whispers starting. Who is that? Is that his housekeeper? Oh my God. Is he serious? James led me to the center of the room, where a microphone was set up for speeches. He took the mic, and the room fell silent. Good evening, he said, his voice steady. Most of you know me as James Whitfield, CEO of Whitfield Industries. But tonight, I want you to know me as something else. A man in love. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This is Mariam Thompson, he continued, pulling me close. She works at my house as a housekeeper. She's brilliant, kind, talented, and she's taught me more about life in 3 months than I learned in 35 years. I'm in love with her, and I don't care what any of you think about it. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. People started shouting questions. Victoria Whitfield stood up, her face white with rage. James, what are you doing? I'm choosing my life, Mother, he said calmly. For the first time ever, I'm choosing what I want. She stormed out, and half the room followed her. But James didn't care. He looked at me and smiled. Ready to face the world? I smiled back, tears in my eyes. With you? Yes. The fallout was immediate and brutal. The board demanded James's resignation. He gave it to them without a fight. The media called me every name in the book: gold digger, social climber, home wrecker, even though James had never been married. My face was on every gossip site, every tabloid. People I'd never met had opinions about my life, my choices, my worth. But here's what they didn't show: James using his severance package to help me secure a loan for my bakery. Me opening Grandma's Kitchen 6 months later in a small space in Inglewood. James taking a job teaching history at a community college, coming home every day with stories about his students. Us getting married in a small ceremony with 20 people, no media, no spectacle, just love. The bakery thriving, becoming a community hub where everyone was welcome. James being happier than I'd ever seen him, finally living the life he'd always wanted. We lost a lot when we chose each other. His CEO position, his mother's approval, his place in high society. But we gained everything that mattered. Because here's the truth, they don't tell you. Love doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't care about class or money or what society thinks you deserve. Love just is. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose it, even when the whole world tells you you're wrong. My name is Mariam Whitfield. I'm 27 years old. I own a bakery, I'm married to a history teacher, and I've never been happier. This is our story, and I wouldn't change a single thing. So that's my story. From invisible housekeeper to the woman who ruined a billionaire's life, except I didn't ruin it. I helped him find it. If this story touched you, moved you, or made you believe in love again, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. We share stories like this every week, real stories about real people choosing courage over comfort. And I want to hear from you. What did you think about this story? Would you have made the same choice James and I did? Drop a comment below and let me know. Also, tell me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for believing that love can break all the rules. Until next time, remember, your story matters, and you deserve to be seen.